Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Tips and Tricks series for MotoGP 21. It has been a hot minute since my last Tips and Tricks video, almost 4.5 weeks since I did tyre wear. This time up it is one that I wouldn't have done any other year but this year since I started my first ever first person career mode. So today will be how to improve in helmet cam, onboard cam, first person, and they'll all apply to this one. So let's jump on track. So you're probably wondering why I'm in third person to start off this segment of the video. It's to show that I'm on a Moto3 bike. Moto3 are the best bike to learn how to ride in helmet cam or first person. If you go on a MotoGP bike, you'll have so much more power and anti-wheelie, and you'll have engine braking and all them things to worry about. When you're riding the bike in first person, you'll get overwhelmed too easily. So my first tip of 3, ride a Moto3 bike. They're slower, they're easier, they don't go crazy on the braking, they don't high side of the corner. If you get a bit aggressive, you can kind of ride them quite hard and you can just focus on your riding. The second tip is look in the distance. When everyone goes to first person, they start to focus on the bike. They always are constantly looking at what the bike is doing, where they need to just focus on the corner. So I'm looking into the corner. I don't know, I cannot see, the bike is in my peripheral view, so I do see it, I see it on screen obviously, but I'm looking at where the bike is going. Like when I come out of here now, I'm looking at the next apex and getting ready to enter that. The whole time around here, I'm not looking at the Patron sign, the dash, anything like that. Again, apex, and now looking at corner exit. You always want to look to the next point. You don't want to be looking straight in front of you because you'll make mistakes basically, and that goes for any camera angle, but it works best for Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP in first person. It's just, if you start looking at the bike, you start to make mistakes. You have such a little window here of what you can see, whereas in third person you can see everything. So looking at the bike, you don't have such a tunnel vision, whereas if you're on this camera angle and you're looking at the bike, you can't really see anything. My third tip would be to practice in race scenarios. When I first started, obviously I have a MotoGP career mode, 39 episodes I'm on at the moment, solely in first person. When I got this game and wanted to do this series for YouTube, I had never actually done any riding other than messing around the occasional online race with friends, messing about in first person. So what I thought to myself, will I bother going to time trial, doing laps, going around, having no track references? No, I'll do a 35% race as Darren Binder at Jerez. Now, I started last, I didn't do any qualifying. Just slowly started dropping back. About lap 4, I started to get into a rhythm, starting to understand how the bike felt, how the bike turns in first person. Started to realise I need to stop looking at the bike, look where I'm going, looking at the corner, the apex, and exit. That's the basic way. You want to look at the corner when you're approaching it, find your braking marker first, then your corner, hit the apex. As soon as you hit the apex, you're looking for your exit, where you want to exit the bike to. Got into that rhythm and I managed to fight back and score points from last. Now I was on, obviously Patron's on a good bike, so that was that, but that was on 120% difficulty. So it is possible to get up to speed with this. I would advise that, because when you've riders in front of you, you'll notice target fixation, where you start to watch them and you kind of mimic them. And no, obviously you don't want to mimic them too much because they can't take away your line and stuff, but you start to see where they brake and how they turn in. You turn in around the same time and you generally get it right. Whereas when you're riding on your own, you start to focus on the bike. You don't really have good markers when you're in first person. But another one is, you need to also think, you've played this game more than likely for a couple of hours. You know the way the track goes. You know where to brake. You know what gear you're in this corner. You know to short shift here on a GP bike to third. Everything applies. You need to ride in first person as you would in third person. You need to brake the same braking markers. You know you can't turn in on that curb in third person. Why do it in first person? You know that 21 sign there is your braking marker. That's where you brake. You know, if you use rear braking here, it doesn't work on a GP bike in third person, so why is it going to work in GP in first person? What have you? You get the gist. You have a lot of intelligence in your brain about this game that you don't really know, or don't really realize, I should say, and that you just need to think about a bit more when you're riding in first person, because it's a bit harder to it's not natural riding in first person if you've spent years riding third person. For me, it did take a while, but I got a podium in Qatar on the second worst bike in the grid. Now you could say I'm amazing at the game and blah blah blah. I'm not great in first person. I'm still quite rusty. I think it still takes me 5 to 7 laps when I go into a weekend to get up to speed of the track. I'm not automatically on the pace, and usually the last like 3 laps of the race is where I start to actually go faster than the at that point I'm pretty much out of the race and I can't win it. So that does happen, but again, practice. So again, just to round off the video, I'm going to summarize basically the tips. Ride a Moto3 bike. They're slower, they're easier to ride, they're not as chaotic. A MotoGP bike can do 200 miles an hour in an instant. Coming into a braking zone at 200 miles an hour, you don't want it. You need to come into corners a lot slower. You'll start to understand the process of riding a first person. Tip 2, look to the distance. Look for your braking marker, look to the corner entry, look to the exit. Don't look at that bike in front of you. If you start looking at that, you'll start making mistakes. You will turn in too early, you'll miss braking points. You'll do this kind of typical thing that you do in first person, where you're looking at the bike, turn out, turn in too much, turn in, up, turn too much, turned in, up, and then you kind of do this little waddle where you're constantly correcting yourself because you're not really looking where you're going. And tip 3, practice, whether that be like this in time trial on your own, or do practice races, do it in career mode, do whatever. If you have riders on track, usually it does help. What you can do is do it in free practice in a career mode session, where you can go out, have an AI rider just right around in front of you for 5 laps, you follow him, and you'll just see leaps and bounds in pace. Now, of course, if you have any questions, please do comment down below. I would be glad to help. This is probably one of the most difficult ones you'll get up to on this game, riding in first person. Now, all these tips apply to this camera angle, which is like a, I'm not really sure, this is kind of not helmet cam, it's like a tank cam, you could say. This is like an external helmet cam, and this has the actual helmet cam, I suppose. They're kind of, this third one here is probably like a GoPro camera on the outside of the helmet. So they all apply to this. They're just all slightly different. The rider leans different ways and everything. But again, once you start to realize, look, I've never played in this camera mode, and I'm well able to take the corners. I'm looking ahead. I'm not actually looking at where the bike is. See there now? I know if I start to look at the bike, I'll start, look, I'm on the inside track now because I looked at the bike, because I wasn't looking where I'm going. You have a built-in, as a human, you have this built-in called target fixation. You will look somewhere and you will follow there, no matter what you do and what you try to do with it. If you see someone in front of you brake and you're like, oh no, I've broken turn, you look at them, you're going to hit them. Again, that time I looked at the bike just to prove it. I turned away toward, there's the apex, I'm out wide. Again, it's all about practice. Use the tips I've given in this video and you'll be on your way to riding in first person or helmet camera, whatever camera on board you want to say. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Comment down below if you have any questions about anything in today's video. And I shall see you for another video in the not so distant future. Bye bye, take care.